What the mission might be for those 4,500 or so Marines and the 1,000 soldiers from the 82nd Airborne beyond just giving the president more options, as the White House said today. Also, the preparations that sources tell us Iran is making to reinforce one potential target. The ground forces might try to occupy Karg Island.
Well, obviously for weeks there has been a lot of chatter about the possibility that the Trump administration might deploy troops to take Karg Island in an attempt to kind of coerce Iran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, because this island is such a key economic lifeline for the Iranians. And the Iranians have taken notice, and they have begun, according to our sources, reinforcing the island with additional air defenses, with additional personnel. And they've also begun laying traps, booby traps, around the island that include mines, including along the shore where U.S. troops might make an amphibious landing if they were to move forward with the ground operation there. Now, U.S. Central Command, they did decline to comment on the Iranian preparations for Karg, but U.S. officials and experts that we spoke to said the risks are extremely high, given all of that, given the preparations Iran is making, given the fact that this island is so close to the Iranian coastline. They will still be susceptible to Iranian drone and missile attacks. And, you know, the Speaker of Iran's parliament on Wednesday actually said this openly, said that anyone who dares try to occupy these Iranian islands are going to be subject to relentless attack. And he said that based on the intelligence the Iranians are receiving, they understand that with the support of one of the U.S.'s regional allies, the U.S. is preparing to occupy one of Iran's islands. We know that Karg Island has been a fixation of President Trump's for quite some time now, and he warned that all enemy movements are under the full surveillance of our armed forces. So it's worth noting the U.S. does have the forces available to do this if it wants to. 2 Marine Expeditionary Units. They are en route to the Middle East, and they would specialize in this kind of operation. But still, the risks and the casualty possibilities, the risks of really high U.S. casualties are there. The Trump administration is taking note of that and weighing whether the risk is worth it, Anderson.
And what about U.S. allies? Are they saying anything about the possibility of a ground operation on Karg?
Yeah, interestingly, we're learning that U.S. Gulf allies in the Gulf region, they are warning the U.S. against carrying out this kind of ground operation. A senior Gulf official told us that the risk of U.S. casualties is very high. Many could be killed or wounded. And they say that it's likely to prompt serious Iranian retaliation against those countries in the region. And they have urged the administration to instead focus on the Iranian ballistic missile capabilities and taking those out rather than launch a ground operation.
Put my scope caps down.
This comes as roughly 1,000 U.S. soldiers are expected to deploy to the Middle East in the coming days, specifically paratroopers. This according to 2 sources familiar with the matter, speaking to CNN.
Speaker Johnson today described the conflict as wrapping up, but the 82nd Airborne Division, they're typically deployed at the beginning of conflicts. So does the White House consider this conflict as wrapping up, or is it changing shape?
As I said at the beginning of my remarks, we are meeting our goals of Operation Epic Fury expeditiously. The president likes to maintain options at his disposal. The remaining elements of the Iranian regime have another opportunity to cooperate with President Trump, permanently abandon their nuclear ambitions, and cease actively threatening America and our allies. But the president's preference is always peace. There does not need to be any more death and destruction. But if Iran fails to accept the reality of the current moment, if they fail to understand that they have been defeated militarily and will continue to be, President Trump will ensure they are hit harder than they have ever been hit before. President Trump does not bluff, and he is prepared to unleash hell. Iran should not miscalculate again. Their last miscalculation cost them their senior leadership, their Navy, their Air Force, and their air defense system. Any violence beyond this point will be because the Iranian regime refused to understand they have already been defeated and refused to come to a deal.
Oil-related sanctions to reduce prices. So we have sanctions on some countries.
播报新闻是我的日常，必须时刻保持妆容和皮肤的最佳状态。当来到人生中最重要的时刻，也是 KS 逆时奇迹帮助我轻松驾驭，闪闪发光。KS 逆时奇迹活肤露全效精华、精华霜，多达5种 EGF 6大冻龄关键成分，保湿效果让我非常满意，小细纹也不再困扰我。我就是我自己的最佳女主角。KS 让我从容自信，光彩动人。我是我人生中的大女主，我的最爱我做主。KS 逆时奇迹系列热卖中，下单请上快点购，透过中天新闻网 App 下单立减50，或输入 CTI 推荐码有额外折扣。